on Zoom. Click on the three dots in the top right. It says virtual background, and you can pick any picture you want. It's quite cool, isn't it? And you can like poke people if you get it right. Hang on.
Poke the diver. Who's the diver? Do you know him?
That's George, my husband.
Is it?
In the days where he was still a OC diver and not a box diver.
So this is a new one on us. So a box diver. I presume you mean rebreather.
Rebreather, yeah.
We'll come to that in a second. Are you now recording, Gemma?
Yep, it's all recording. Yes.
Excellent. All right. Well,
it's like live on Big Brother, don't swear and stuff. Isn't it?
Those are the days when they do not swear. It's a family show. Welcome. Anyway, so little big chat. Welcome. So Gemma, Tash, myself, Ian, we're all here to have a chat about Tash. What we know about you, Tash, is Tash, you're a diver. You organise lots of trips, holidays on the diving side of things, and you are originally from Weymouth.
I am, yeah.
Yeah, I've got some information right. It's good, and you do a fair bit of tech diving as well.
Yeah. That's for me. It's probably quite a new thing. So I've had a twin set for quite some years, maybe 7 or 8 years. So I'm a twin set instructor as well. So we do quite a lot of instructing within our dive trips sometimes as well. Mm-hmm. But probably you can have a twin set and not really be a technical diver as per se. So about 3 years ago, maybe 2 years ago, I then sort of progressed through a little bit of nagging with your husband into doing a bit of sort of accelerated decompression and stuff like that. So that's pretty cool for your bottom time. So you can just spend so much more time at the bottom in the engine rooms and stuff like that, and you don't have to worry quite so much about decompression. So it's really cool.
I think it'd only be right and fair to say about the wreck that you've got in the picture behind us, because this is all going to go on YouTube. So what's the name of that? Where is it?
That's the Giannis D in Egypt, and she sits around about 30 meters at the very, very bottom. You can actually sit on the frame around about 10 meters. So it's a really good place to hang around and get some deco done. But
very popular one, isn't it?
Oh, it's great. But the place that a lot of people don't go to, which we've started exploring over the last couple of years, is quite deep into the engine room. So you can quite safely get in the first part as a recreational diver. There's a reasonable hole for you to get in and have a look. But if you actually really get exploring, you can go quite deep into Giannis D's engine room, which is pretty cool. Some really good video from that. It's
have you always been into diving?
No, weirdly, being a Weymouth girl, you think I would be. But for years, I sat next to somebody in the office who banged on about diving constantly. So I felt like I knew all about it, but never dived. And then my husband, who's in the military, he came home one day and decided he was going to give diving a go. So we'd gone to America, actually, and went to Key West, and I did a bit of a try dive, and I hated it. I actually liked the diving, but really struggled with my ears, massively struggled with my ears. Ended up with an ear infection for the holiday, come home, said, glad I tried it, never ever going to do it again. So he went off and did a course with the military, became a diver, and then he said, well, just give it a go, because it's something we can do together. So he'd gone to a local, from where we lived at the time, a local puddle, should we say, and sort of explained the situation. They said, well, if we don't get a dive in, we'll give her money back. So what have we got to lose, really? And they kind of said that I was never taught to equalise properly, and I do suffer with very narrow tubes in my ears, so I'm probably one of those people who's always going to struggle. But they managed to get me diving, and now I manage it. Sometimes I have good and bad days, and as long as I let my buddy know, that I'm going to be a bit slower going down, or I have to equalise coming up, and not everybody has to do that. So so never look back now.
Sometimes you just have good, as you say, good and bad days, and I think as well, do you get affected by the pollen or anything like that? Does it affect you?
Yeah, I mean, this is why diving in Egypt is pretty cool, because I don't get any kind of issues with hay fever in Egypt, so it does make it a lot easier. But I mean, I've just learned to manage it. I've learned to deal with when before you go in the water and out you come in the water, that little maintenance on your ears is really quite a good thing to do. And everybody with ear problems has a slightly different way of doing it. Some people have little it's not gas, it's just air actually. It's like one of those things they clean computers with, that you can just push the water out when you get out of the water. Good to get that water out your ears.
Do you find swim ear or anything?
Water and ears don't mix, do they? So.
Do you find the little droplets help? Do you ever use any of that?
I tried that and didn't find for me it helped very much, but a little tip somebody gave me in the Maldives once was water and vinegar. So just a little bit of normal table vinegar mixed with water works better. So that tends to be quite a good thing to do.
Olive oil.
Olive oil, yeah. I think the water and vinegar works better for me. But I find the olive oil sits in your ear more, and then you find you're fiddling with it all the time, and then it just makes it worse, doesn't it?
Don't put so much in.
I know. It's probably my fault. User error.
Cool.
But yeah, Egypt's one of my favourite places to go.
Yeah.
I think you've got everything there. It's easy, it's warm all year round. I mean, we usually go in August and it's 28 degrees in the water. You can't go wrong. It's just easy. It's lazy diving, really.
Yeah.
Get kit set up on day one, and then you just chuck it on your back 3 or 4 times a day. It's brilliant.
And if you do the liverboards, they're so helpful, aren't they? I was amazed when I done mine, and I was on the Blue O2. I can't remember the Melody ship, and beautiful ship, and I dread to think what they cost. And you think, right, the captain of the ship is on there, and he's in charge of this multi-million-pound boat, and all these people, crew, guests, and he's one of the guys who helps you with your kit. So, as
and he dives. The captain of the Melody dives as well.
Yeah,
and he actually dives with the guests.
But in this country, you don't always get that. There'll be captains out there listening, probably shouting.
Yeah.
But you generally, often, the captain's always a little bit standoffish, and he's there watching what goes on. But over there, he's one of the guys, he's one of the crew helping you with your kit and fin, handing you a cup of hot chocolate as you get back on the boat and those sort of things. It's just like, wow.
Yeah.
Brilliant.
I think the captains in the UK expect you to be completely self-sufficient, and the captains abroad accept you are on holiday and can't be asked to be self-sufficient.
I can't, I'm so helpless, please help.
I think the good thing, because our crew go out every year, we go out every year to Egypt, and they all know us really well, and they've really kind of learnt those that want the help and those that don't. So George and myself, we crack on and fix ourselves. George does not like people fiddling with his kit, and they leave us to do that.
Understand that.
And then some of the guys are a little bit sort of less competent and confident, and they need that little bit of help and guidance, a little bit of rubbing on the back before they jump in and stuff.
A question for you: does George always dive with a rebreather? Even at say say he's going to go to something like that wreck, Giannis D, would he use a rebreather for that? Hello, George.
Hi, mate. You okay?
Yes, thank you.
So George started just like all of us on a single cylinder. Went to twin set for quite a few years, and it's always been him that's pushed me with my diving. To be honest, I was always quite comfortable with a single cylinder. The first time I dived Scapa was a single cylinder, and he's.
How did you get on there? A lot of the German fleet are regarded as the technical only wrecks, aren't they?
So I've done it twice, Scapa flow. The first time I had a 15 litre and a pony, so I made sure I had some kind of redundancy. George had a twin set, and I think the difference is it's just really short dive times, and your repetitive diving, your diving gets shorter, so you can still enjoy it as a recreational diver, but I would say you enjoy it more with a twin set.
Yeah.
And I think that really is it, because it's very, very square profile diving. It's not like in Egypt where you can be in the water for an hour and a half, and probably an hour of that is at 6 meters.
And who did you dive with up at Scapa? Who's your guide? What boat did you on?
We dive with a chap called Ian, who has MV Invincible. and
Okay.
he's actually an English skipper married to an Orcadian, and Fiona, his wife, is on board as well. They are brilliant fun, very, very easy going. As long as you play the game as a diver, then they are great skippers. You never ever miss a wreck with him. He's very competent. He's a commercial diver in the past himself. He's dived all the wrecks. He knows everything about them. So, I mean, to be fair, all the boats up there, you know, other boats are available in the
They
Scapa.
are, yeah.
But
I think Emily's up
they're
there.
all very competent. Yeah. You've got Bob. You've got he's got a couple of boats up there. You've obviously got the girls and the Valkyrie, and you know, there's plenty of options up there. We've used Ian twice. I think once you use a skipper, you kind of stick with a skipper.
Yeah.
And it's been great. So the second time we went, so again, this is one of our trips that we've done, and it was just one of those. We've been doing a few trips for a while, and somebody said, "Why don't we get a Scapa flow?" So I said, "All right, I'll do one to Scapa flow. Do another trip." Within about 24 hours, all the slots were sold. And that was us. So I think the trick is to give them plenty of time to pay.
Yeah.
Do
and then how long?
advance.
So do you go up there for like the week? Because there's 2 days driving. Or you do it over 2 days.
We went up on the Friday. So we all left at something like 2 in the morning on the Friday. We got a big van, so we picked a couple of guys on the way up, and we just had this massive road trip. A lot of silly videos in the car on Facebook, and just made it a good laugh. Everybody met up the north just to catch the boat, and then we were there for the whole week. So a whole week on board, mostly technical divers, which was great. So we had a couple of 1, 2, 3 rebreathers. I don't think we had any single cylinders, did we, George?
What's that?
In Scapa?
Don't approve of them.
Yeah, George doesn't approve of single cylinders. So yeah, it was a completely technical boat, which was great, and we did exactly what we wanted. The skipper just says, "Right, what do you want to do?" and leaves it for us to plan, which is perfect. And we had the best week. It was flat calm, like glass all week. It was in May, and for Scotland in May, and I lived in Scotland for 6 years, so I know in May it can be cold, and it was like t-shirt weather.
Wow, that's lucky.
The weather, it was amazing, absolutely amazing. We had every dive we wanted in perfect conditions. Although if you've not dived there before, it can be you can proper get hit by currents. And we dived. I wanted to do a block ship because the first time around we didn't do a block ship, which is one of the Churchill barriers, and we dropped down on one of those. And the skipper had said, once you go in the wreck, he said, you'll find, we'd obviously gone in on slack, you'll drop in, have a look around. He said, keep an eye on the outside, keep an eye on the kelp. The minute the kelp starts moving, you want to think about binning it off. Well, you know what it's like. You're kind of looking, that'll be all right, and carry on, only been here 15 minutes, I'll do a bit longer. Next time I look out the porthole, it's horizontal, the kelp. And I was like, brilliant, right, okay. So I was like, right, so jumped out the window, had my buddy with me, and I said, right, we're going to need to put the DSMB up in the lee of the wreck. So we literally flicked the DSMB up, which just flew up and went horizontal. I was like,
I'll just stop you very quickly. Just explain for the people who might not know what that is. What do you mean?
Oh, sorry. Yeah, so I have a pink, obviously, DSMB, which is delayed surface marker buoy, which enables you to send that marker buoy to the surface from the bottom or the middle or wherever you want in the water, basically. So you fill it up, loads of ways of filling it up. You can fill it up orally, which tends to be what I do. You fill it up from an LPI, you can fill it up with your mouthpiece, exhaust, anything really. So flew that up and it literally went out horizontal. So then it was right, okay, we haven't really got a lot of decode to do. We'll get some deep decode done, and then we'll just go for it. So we literally went out, and it was just a massively fast drift, and we just went with it, just let it go. It was quite cool, to be fair. And as soon as it calmed down, because I knew eventually it would calm down, and at the end of the day, we've got a boat, no point wagging your tail yourself, is there?
Yeah.
So just went with the drift, and it was
I love
lovely.
current.
Yeah,
That's
but
good.
I can understand. That's the bit where I think the recreational and technical kind of comes in, and it might have given some people a little bit of a fright.
Yeah. Oh God, yeah.
Because currents, when you aren't aware of them, are quite frightening. So, which probably brings me on to how we started our trips, really. So, with George and I, having learnt to dive and, you know, having done 20 dives, actually thought we were the best divers in the world. So, decided we were going to go to Egypt. I think every diver does this, don't they? So decided we were going to go to Egypt, and George said, "Oh, this is great thing called liveaboards. This is what it is. It's really expensive, but we'll give it a go." So went out on our first liveaboard, and you know, we was chucked on this coach for 4 hours, going down to Marsa Alam and Port Galib, and we're like, oh, this is a bit rubbish, being cramped on a bus. And got off the bus, and we at the usual, I can't really say what we nickname it, because it's got a swear word in it, but it's this really random cafe in the middle of nowhere on the way to Port Galib, about halfway through, and it looks like something out of a horror movie. It's really bizarre place, and we'd kind of stopped there, and we were sat on this bench, and me and George were looking at each other going, what have we done, what have we done? Next thing, I heard these two people get off, and there was this really loud northern bird. I was like, brilliant. So now we're going to be stuck on a boat with a really loud northern bird. Fantastic. Anyway, so this couple sat down and started chatting to us, and I'm thinking, oh, God, I can't be doing this. And as it transpires, we end up getting on really well. And this loud northern bird today is one of my best friends, and her husband, John, is one of George's best friends. And we laugh about that. And this is how these dive trips started. So we met them on that trip, spent the whole trip with them, and then said, should we do it again? And they said, well, we're part of a club, why don't we invite some of them guys? So that became the second trip, became 7 or 8 of us. And then we said, well, let's do it again. And then we've met a couple of people on that second trip, and we invited them. And gradually over the years, it's got bigger and bigger and bigger, and we've got more exciting about where we're going to go. So we've done the Maldives, we've done Scapa as a team. We nickname ourselves the Salty Sphinxters. Yeah, so we've got this year, fingers crossed, we're supposed to be going to the Red Sea again, because that's a bit of an annual pilgrimage, and truck. So this is the one I'll be the most upset about if we don't get to go. So
how long have you been waiting for truck?
We booked this 3 years ago.
Really?
So 3 years ago. It's a massively expensive trip, and this is why our trips work. So we're not a business. We literally, like I said, we just expanded with people we find on boats and add them to the group, and the group's got bigger and bigger, and we now tend to find that we all go on these trips together, built up from making friends on trips, and it's great. So again, one day, funnily enough, the same person that suggested Scapa had said, why don't we do truck? And I went, wow, it's really expensive. I don't think we'll get any of our team.
So what's the itinerary for truck?
Oh gosh, so it's
roughly
all wrecks.
just
all wrecks.
Really? That'd be good.
Yeah. And we kind of done it by a liveaboard.
What's the wrecks up there? What's the main sort of 3 or 4? What's the main wrecks that you hope to get onto?
Oh gosh.
For those who don't know. You know?
What do we want to do? So we really want to do a lot of them are called Maru. So Maru means merchant ship, essentially. So you tend to find they're all called that. So you've got things like Hockey Maru, which is just this merchant ship freighter. They're all roughly about the same kind of length, but that would be quite cool. There's some that are quite deep that George wants to do, and some of the more technical guys would like to have a shot at.
How deep are they? What sort of
you
depth
could be more looking at sort of 50, 55, 60, that kind of depth. So most of the wrecks are within recreational limits, and then you tend to get sort of half a dozen of them that sit a bit deeper than that. So providing your boat's got enough technical divers on it, then they will take them to you. But even the ones that sit quite deep, actually you can get on them at a slightly more shallow. You don't have to go into the engine rooms, and so it doesn't completely write it off for people, which is what makes it really quite cool.
Depends how they lay as well, doesn't it? Like with Scapa, you get parts of the You know, they'll be shallow. Yeah,
I think there's one called the Fujikawa Maru, I think, and in that you can see a lot of the dials really clearly and all that kind of stuff. So I don't think I've got. I think the one that everybody wants is the Nippo Maru, which that sits perfectly on the bottom, and you literally come down and you come down to the bow and you can see the guns right in front of you, and that would be quite exciting. But all
I
of
think
them,
that's the one that's been on the photos a lot, I think.
yeah, it's a bit like the Giannis D shot. It's the money shot kind of wreck, because you can just get this nice, clear, pristine bow shot coming, you know, as you're coming down to it. So
Yeah,
that would be quite something.
Do you
But
find
yeah, I think all of
most of the people that travel with you, they're quite experienced divers, or do you get some new?
we absolutely get. So I think about my first liverboard. At the time they said you had to do 50 minimum log dives, and I remember I only had about a couple of dive trips in. As one day we went to Stony Cove and I needed 7 more dives, and it was literally right, jump in the water, let's do a 15-minute dive, get out, stick a head above the water for 10 minutes, drop in, do another 15. I mean, we were so desperate. Oh, it's stupid when I look at it now, totally stupid. We jumped out on this liverboard as complete novices, and I remember on day 2 we'd been taken to the Brothers. So the way the winds were going, we were at the Brothers quite early, and normally it's a little bit later in the itinerary. We've gone to the Brothers, and of course you've got the Numidia and the Iada. So they both sit on the reef quite close to each other, and they both drop down to quite some depth. And it's quite famous at the Brother for really, really strong currents, which is why we get the sharks there as well.
yeah.
And they kind of said in the brief, so is everybody good with a negative entry? And I was like, I'm not putting my hand up. I'm going to just pretend I'm a brilliant diver. I've never done a negative entry in my life. In fact, I don't even think I've done a seawater dive at that point.
Do you know what that is, Gemma?
Is that going backwards?
So negative entry, yeah, I should explain. Sorry. So negative entry is when you drop any air you've got out of your wing, your BCD, whatever you're wearing, and you drop backwards into the water off the back of the boat, or off the front, whatever, how you're going in, and you just drop under the surface.
I like
and
it.
Sink straight away.
Yeah, sink straight away. And I was like, I'm not putting my hand up. I'm just not doing it.
What don't you like about it?
Sorry?
What don't you like about it?
Oh, I like doing a negative entry. I wasn't prepared to admit I have never done one before at the time.
Oh, okay.
No, I can't be confident. And then is everyone confident currents? I thought, don't put your hands up. Just keep quiet, keep your mouth shut. So we got in there and we've done this negative entry, and I absolutely bricked it. So not only just where the wrecks are is right on the edge of the island, and the currents can split when you get there, and you can also get faced with a downward current there, and we had both. We had a split and a down current, and I remember within seconds I was at 30 meters, and I don't know how it happened at the time. Now I do, but I don't know how it happened at the time. And I remember looking around thinking, I'm on my own. George is at 30 meters, panicking with the current as well somewhere. We just had to fix it. And I remember finning so hard, putting air in my BCD, thinking if all of a sudden the downward current stops, I'm at the surface as well. And I can see the dive guy going, come on. And they're already at the reef, and we've been dropped a little bit too far out, and the outward current was taking us as well. And I was like, oh my God, never finned so fast in all my life. So that was
experience.
Yeah. So that was my first experience of a current.
At least it didn't put you off.
I know. And ever since then, I've always been honest. If I've not done something before or need to know something, I've always been honest. So that's a really, really key tip for me, for any diver, is just be honest if you're nervous about something. Because I wasn't, and I was terrified for that 5 minutes of getting to the reef. I was terrified.
We've touched on this on a previous episode, because like I've talked about one of my dives where you get on a boat, especially when you're with very experienced divers, and you do have to raise your hand and say, well, actually,
absolutely.
I don't really understand this bit, can you tell me?
And our group is now made up of that. It's made up of hugely experienced divers, George has done thousands of dives. We've got a few on the boat. Mark, Jan, Clive, I could name them all, and they've done donkey's years of diving and thousands of diving all over the world, massively experienced. And you know, every year there's always somebody on the boat that isn't as experienced, but the team are great because they will always offload that experience and always help them without being negative about it. George is forever spending time with people and encouraging them to dive and different ways, and explaining things and helping and fixing, and it's just a really good team atmosphere. It's really good.
Well, that's the beauty of diving, isn't it? Because diving is a social sport, and you know, it doesn't. You can just turn up on a liveaboard. For those that don't know what a liveaboard is is a purpose-built ship that we go out on, and there'll be, say, 20, 30 people on there, guests and divers. And over the course of the week, you actually live aboard a boat and you dive, and you have three dives a day. So if you know, depending on where you are, you might get night dives in, but generally speaking, you'll get at least a couple of dives in, and you know, it's a good thing to do. And I did my first liveaboard with Crystal Seas Norwich and the Blue O2, and I was out there for a week and did all the dives, and I think over the course of the week I've got about 20 dives in, and it gives you a chance when you're quite new-ish. It's usually best to do them as an advanced dive to get the benefit of it, really. As you say, minimum 50 dives, and then you can just go in there and get experience of all different types of dive. As you say, it's warm, people help you with your kit, it's nice clear water, and you're like, this is awesome, this is great, look at all the colours, this is brilliant.
Nice lazy diving, you see some beautiful stuff underwater over there, and the way we've always run our trips is we do it so far in advance, it gives people time to pay. So I just set up a trip account and people drop money in as and when they want, or some people set up like monthly standing orders. Before they know it, they've paid for the trip and they've not even realised they've done it. So like the truck, we booked it 3 years ago. I negotiated the boat 3 years ago. This year I spent so long on the internet looking for flights and managed to get our flights for only about £1,400, which is pretty good prices to get over to truck. So
So what's the procedure? It's a flight out there, then a smaller flight.
Yeah, so your last flight, generally what you do is your last flight's from Guam, so that's your kind of island hopper from Guam across to truck. It's not even 2 hours long. It's like going to Scotland really from London. And ironically, that's pound for pound the most expensive part of the trip. I think they're about 700 quid, those flights.
We've lost you, Tash.
You're back?
Oh, yeah, now you're back.
So we're going from Heathrow to Guam, dropping in at Manila on the way for a quick plane change. We've got a couple of days in Guam. We've booked some like houses, sort of four-man, six-man houses, so we can all stay together in the same complex. And such a long way to go. What I don't want to be is exhausted when I get on the boat, and then you're diving, and then that's when you're risking the bends and stuff like that. And I want the team to have that time to have a rest. And on the return trip, we're doing the same. So we've got a couple of days in Guam again, just to chill out and before we do too much flying.
How long are you going for?
10 days.
Wow.
Plus the 2 days either side, so 10 days on the boat, and then the 2 days in Guam each side, plus your flying time. So actually it works out more than about 3 weeks really.
Wow.
In time total.
Yeah.
But it's a good bunch. We have a good laugh. There's lots of themes that run through it, so we always have trip t-shirts. There's always the pink theme, which is so I usually dye my hair bright pink for these trips because it's just funny. And I'm always known for, as you know now, Gemma, because you've seen it, it's my pink kit.
Yeah, no, well, I'm sort of following in your footsteps. I ordered my kit, some masks, snorkel and fins and bag yesterday, so all with a pink element.
Excellent. Excellent. So it just started off as a bit of a joke. So the club that we originally were part of had a rule called the Mps Rule, which was no pink. We call it stuff, not the word stuff. You can guess what that is. Which meant a couple of us just rebelled, just out of pure spite, really, and it went on from there. So now most of my stuff is pink somehow, with my dive kit: pink fins, pink wing, pink regs. Well, pink hoses for my regs, should I say? Pink mask. Yeah, absolutely everything.
You like the colour pink?
Do you know what? I never used to. That's the funny thing, and that's what George finds quite humorous. Is I never used to. But yeah,
No, George can't use that colour.
George is a techie black boy. He likes his techie black stuff. So
Like me.
You don't find anything colourful on his kit at all. It's all
Yeah, I'm in
black.
Green suit inflation
Although he's just said he's a little bit upset because he's just bought a suit inflation cylinder and it was green, so he's not overly chuffed.
Oh, no, it's good. We'll see him.
We could go neon green and black. That would look quite cool.
Do you think?
I've seen that
do you know what? Because he is so upset it's green, he's actually ordered a cover for it to make it black.
Yeah, I would too, definitely. I like to be in full stealth mode so people can't see me coming.
That's it.
Yeah.
That's the one.
And especially with a rebreather, you can't hear him coming either.
No, even as
So
a dive master, you'll be seeing.
To be diving with him, I'm looking around. Where's he gone now? No, it's not like I can even look for bubbles.
What's he got against one cylinder divers then?
I think it's more of a safety thing. So I think the more you get into technical diving, you appreciate that redundancy.
God, yeah, if
that
you're going to be doing
ability.
deep stuff. Yeah.
Well, anytime, you never know when you need it. Do you know what? You can be at 10 meters, and I've been in part of emergency situation at 10 meters. Now, as that happens, actually, having extra air wouldn't have helped me in this particular situation, but you never know what it is, and you never know when you might need it. And we all know what the maths is and how quickly, when somebody's under stress, air can disappear.
Yeah.
And if you're both stressed and both breathing, 3 or 4 times your normal breathing rate, then it disappears really quickly.
No, it's really true. Yeah.
Never any harm in having extra air.
No, absolutely. Always best to come up with plenty of air if you can. So what I was going to say was we've got about 6 minutes left before the end of this little.
Wow, that went fast.
It does go quick.
Soon goes. So we need to make sure that we cover, where, what's coming up for you. Where can people find you if they want? If people who are hearing this, if they're interested in any trips that you've got coming up or might be coming up. I know we've got the whole virus and things might all change a bit. If somebody is interested, now they've heard of you, where do they go? How do they find you?
We do it all on Facebook. So we just set up a page called Tash and George's Dive Trips, and it's public page. Anybody can join it, and anybody's welcome on our trips. In fact, it's always better to have newbies on the trips, and it's nicer to have new people and meet new people. So we always welcome new people, and every year we've had somebody who's never done it before join our trips, and they've always.
What is your recommended level? What would you say? Sort of dive.
We would take an open water diver, and if we needed to progress them, then we would work with them to do that. So we've got somebody this year who was so excited with all the technical stuff we did last year that he wanted to do the same. So I'm just helping him go through his BZAC dive leader at the moment, so that we can get him up to speed, so that he can then join the tech world and do some of that. So we've had open water divers or ocean diver for BZAC. So
as chances are we might not be. Let's work on the basis that we might not be diving for a little while, or getting on a plane for a little while. If we're going to dive, for people who are going to want to dive in this country, where can you recommend to go? What's your sort of favourite place to dive in the UK?
So we're quite landlocked here, so we tend to rely on travelling somewhere. So if we're doing a bit of training or just want a quick dip, we might go to Stony or even MDAC. Nice, clean dive sites, really easy to dive. And
Stony Cove or
Stony Cove or Chepstow, and Chepstow's quite dynamics, so you can get a nice 60-meter dive in there, or you can actually be bimbling at 10-15 meters, so it's quite interesting getting down a hill, mind you, but
It
or
is.
back up,
I love it there. It's brilliant.
but it's a great dive site. But we do, being a Weymouth girl, and have never dived there for several years before I didn't dive, we do now go down to Weymouth, and free accommodation with the parents down there, obviously.
What's
so we
to
go
see
down
at
there.
Weymouth? What's to see at Weymouth? Why go to Weymouth?
So
Is there wrecks there? Or?
it started off as it was easy for us because we had accommodation, but actually the wrecks down in Weymouth and Portland are amazing, and there's so much diversity down there, and you don't even have to dive the wrecks. You can dive Loworth Cove and go and get some scallops. You can do a nice drift dive there. You can jump off Swanage Pier, and that's always quite a nice dive. You can even, if you wanted to, go off Chesil Beach and do a shore dive off there if you pick the right conditions. But we tend to go out on the boats, go out and skin deeper, and we quite like either like the M2, which is, for people that don't know, that's quite a unique submarine stroke aircraft carrier that sunk in about 1932, I think. It's about 90 odd meters long, very intact. Quite a cool thing.
M2.
M2, yeah. That's quite a cool thing. It's about 35 meters, I think. I can't quite remember.
I've heard of that.
Yeah, and one that kind of just come to me before we got locked down, and the more recent one I did, is we did one quite a while back called the Aeolian Sky, and I had such a rubbish dive on it, and it came back on a day trip that we were going to do down there, and I was a bit disappointed because I had such a rubbish dive, but actually for whatever reason the conditions were lovely, and it is amazing little dive. So that's a Greek freighter that it was quite new when it went down, so it was built in 78, and I think it went down in 79.
All right. What's it called?
About 100, and it's Aeolian Sky.
Okay.
It's about 150 meters long, sits in about 30 meters of water at the deepest point. So I think you can actually see it from about 15 meters, something like that. Very heavily salvaged. They used explosives to salvage it, so there's a lot of crumpled stuff down there. But you can get down into the walkways. There's lots of swim throughs. It's quite a fascinating little dive, and I had the best dive down there. One of the last dives we had before we got locked down. So I'd really, really recommend the Aeolian Sky. It's a really good little dive.
Let me just tell you about the M2 wreck. You were bang on with your year. It sank in 1932. The M2 is a one-of-a-kind submarine aircraft carrier. How about that? Which sank off Portland in 1932 during routine exercises. It is 90 meters long, and it's still in one piece and sits upright on the seabed at a depth of about 35 meters. So at the
that's what I said, 35, yeah, perfect.
Were you? Bang on. And,
yeah, you got a minute left.
Oh gosh.
So with that in mind, okay for just about okay for recreational divers. So if you've got especially twin sets. So thank you very much, Tash. It's been brilliant. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you.
And
Nice.
thanks, George. We'll be putting this around on YouTube. If you can, remember to subscribe to A Big Chat. It's really easy to find. Just search on that, it'll come up, and we'll put this on the YouTube as well, with links and everything. Is there anything else you want to say or quickly add?
No, I think one of our main aims as a group are just to keep people diving, keep them interested, and expand the knowledge. And it's great to see people transferring into technical diving for us. Brilliant. So every time we do a trip and somebody else is in it, it's great to have more people. Yeah, I mean, going through the Elphinstone Arch at 60 meters was just amazing. So to get a few more people coming down there with us would be great.
Okay, we'll see what we do. We'll put the word out.
Great.
Thank you very much.